You're walking through the grocery store, minding your business, and at those end caps, they've got just the right thing that catches your eye. And you go and you pick something up, and you're not quite sure, is this something that's healthy? Do I put it in my cart? Do I take it home? Or even at home, as you are working on trying to improve your health. You're looking through the cabinet. You're looking through the pantry. What do I keep? What do I get rid of? Do I need to throw anything out? Understanding labels, understanding sugars, understanding where they are. That's what we're talking about tonight. Hey, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. If you're new to me, that's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you, I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes, get off of medication, who want to put their diabetes in remission. And that's the task that we have before us, and that's the path that we're on. And tonight, we are in part 3 of our third pillar of reversing diabetes. Remember, decrease insulin, suppress the appetite, and reduce sugar. And here we're talking about part 3. We're talking about labels. We're talking about food. We're talking about where those carbs, those sugars are. That's what we're spending our time tonight discussing. Hey, if you're new to me as well, go ahead and put new in the comments, because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that we are happy that you are here. If you do have questions as we move throughout the evening, go ahead and drop those in the comments, drop those in the chat as well, because we'd love to answer those as we go throughout tonight. And I have got to say hi to all of my folks who are out there. I do see some of our community members hanging out already. I see Steve. Steve is saying hello. Teresa said, hey, doctor and everyone. Steve, hello, Teresa. And then, of course, Teresa, hi, Steve. Glad that you guys are out there. If you have been following us, you know where we are. We are in the third pillar of our reversing diabetes. If you've not done so, make sure that you get back and you look at our previous show, which was part 2, right? So there are 3 parts to this one so far. And then, of course, the previous pillars that we did, decreasing insulin and then suppressing the appetite. Awesome. And you know how we do it here, right? I've got in front of me some things that we're going to take a look at. I've got my glucose meters that are off to the side. And then, of course, right below me, that is my Dexcom Clarity report that we will take a look at a little later. Okay? All right. So if you are out there, I should say if you're out there because you're listening to me, right? in the chat, I want you to put a yes or a no, right? Yes or a no. And here's the question. Are you comfortable reading food labels? Are you comfortable reading food labels? Yes or no? Okay, so that's the first question that we're gonna go into. And food labels, and that's the discussion that we're having. And in order for us to understand where to remove sugar, in order for us to understand where to reduce sugar, we've got to understand where the sugars are. And a big part of that is understanding the labels that we see in our grocery store and the labels that we see on the foods that we're using, okay? So we want to make sure that we are learning that, and we're going to spend some time tonight kind of going through some of that. And if I had to give a different name, right? So we're talking about reducing sugar part 3. But if I had to give a different name to this, I would say cracking the code, how to read food labels and avoid hidden sugars. Okay? How to read food labels and avoid hidden sugars. And so I do see one of our, let's see. So we see Clifton Johnson. Clifton Johnson says he's new. Hey, man. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for being here. And then Steve, in answer. So Steve, you didn't follow the directions, man. Say yes or no. But Steve said he is very, very comfortable with reading food labels. I'm gonna have Steve come on and do a show. I love when I talk to Steve in our community meetups or even here on the show. I think I'm gonna have him host a show. What do you think? If you think we should have Steve host a show, put yes. Put yes. Okay. That's the only option, by the way. There's not a no. There's a yes. Okay. So understanding food labels. So cracking the code, how to read food labels and avoid hidden sugars. And the question is, why is that important? Why is it important that we do that? Because we're empowering ourselves, right, to make healthier choices. Now, notice I say healthier, right? Not necessarily healthy choices, but healthier choices. Because often, I in my office will talk to people who are saying that. I talk to people who are frustrated, right? Because they think they're making healthy choices. They're doing the things that they were taught, the things that we have shown them what to do, and yet they find that they're not moving or having the success that they thought they would have. Okay, but so why are food labels important? Why does it matter? Because they're the key to making informed choices about what you eat. Right? So you want to pause there. Without food labels, and this now we're talking about labels for things that are I was gonna say processed, but I'm gonna change that phrase because there are some things in boxes that are not necessarily processed, but they're packaged. And so they have to have labels. But other than that, other than you walking up to a tree, for example, and picking something, or you going out into the field and reaping something, or you going out to your garden grabbing something, and all through the process taking that thing from the time you picked it up to your plate and into your mouth, everything that goes between that has somebody else touching it. And if it's a packaged food, then you got to understand what's going on with the packaging and the labels that are on it. Okay? So number one, they're the key for making informed choices about what you eat. Number two, for reducing sugar. Right? So we want to reduce. That's one of the pillars, right? So we're reducing sugar intake and improving your overall health. Now, we're talking specifically about sugar, but there are other things that are on the label that are important as well. A lot of it actually has to do with the metabolic spectrum of diseases. I want you to notice something. And actually, this is an epiphany that just came to me. This was not in my conversation. This was not in my thoughts. When you're looking at food labels, so we're talking about metabolic disease, right? Metabolic diseases, diabetes being the prototypic. But remember, there are all these other metabolic diseases that we can talk about. But diabetes is the ultimate one, and anything that we do that can fix diabetes, we can extrapolate to all the others. Okay, let me make that point. So when we talk about food, we've mentioned this idea of food as medicine, and the packaging, the labeling, go directly to metabolic disease. Now, there are some other things that you'll put on there, like phenylketonuria and phenylalanine and those types of things that are for some specific diseases. A lot of them also fall into the metabolic spectrum, but that's a whole nother conversation. But when we're looking at that label, the label is specifically designed to address metabolic disease, diseases of lifestyle. Okay? So remember that. All right. So number one, they're good. It helps you to make informed decisions. Number two, for helping you to reduce your intake and improve your overall health. And then foods may contain hidden sugars that can derail your health goals if you are not careful. Now, And so hidden, as in maybe intentionally hidden, or hidden as in just they're buried somewhere. I mean, however you want to think. Not necessarily conspiracy theorists, but right. Some of it is probably intentional, right? So understanding food labels very very important for what we are doing in this space. Because remember, what we're working on is working on reversing diabetes. So if we look at food labels, and you'll see one there on the screen. So understanding the basics, understanding the basics. So there are essentially 4 sections that I want us to pay attention to, and they are as outlined. So nutritional facts, right? Serving size. And we'll come back and talk through some of these. So serving size. And then, right? And then the calories that are in there, total calories. And then we begin breaking that down according to the daily recommended values. And this is where we get total fat, cholesterol, sodium, total carbohydrates, protein, and then vitamins and minerals. And then down at the bottom, you will get the ingredients. And so these are sections that I want you to begin paying attention to. So serving size. Let's start there. So serving size. The serving size is your main base for what you're going to do and how you're going to read the label. So serving sizes tell you how much of that product, the nutritional information on the product, is based on. So when you're reading the label, right, that label is based on one serving size. Often, okay. Now sometimes they'll do some interesting math, but generally speaking, serving size is based on one serving of that particular product. Now sometimes you'll see on the box or on the can or on the container or on the bag, whatever it is, there'll be 2 rows or 2 columns, right? So everything in the bag has this, but then if you do want to do one serving, you'll do this. And if you're not careful, a lot of people will end up reading this one serving size column and think it relates to or applies to the entire container, and that's not the case. Okay. For example, on the screen you'll see there some Honey Nut Cheerios, and one serving is a cup, right? 37 grams, one serving. But this entire box has 8 servings. So whatever we see in the column, if we ate the entire box, we'd have to multiply everything there by 8. So as an example, you'll see there that total carbohydrates. Well, let's do a different one. Let's see. How about sugar? Right, sugar, 22 grams. So we'd have to multiply 22 grams by 8 to get the serving size or get the total amount for this particular container. This whole thing. Okay, the serving size tells you how much of the product the nutritional information is based on. So many products contain multiple serving size per package. Like I said, if you go to your big box store, your big wherever you get your stuff, you can get a huge box or huge container of whatever it is. And if you're looking and say, okay, serving size, right, that entire thing is not one serving. And you may consume more sugar than you think if you're not careful. And you want to check the serving size first to accurately assess the sugar content. You want to make sure that you're looking at that carefully. Because if you're not doing that, then you can run into some serious issues as you are doing that. Now, the other thing is, for instance, let's see, do I have it? I don't think I have it here. Left it in the car. But I talked to you guys in one of my check-ins recently about sugar-free gum. or some gum that I was using when we were talking about bad breath as it relates to fasting. You guys remember that show? And so I went out and I bought, it says sugar-free gum, and sugar-free means less than 0.5 milligrams per deciliter, right? So if I ate, it says less than, right? I don't know exactly what that number is, but say I ate, say it was like zero point 0.1, and I had 10 pieces of that for the day, right? That's 1 gram. And if you're not careful, if you're chewing, right, you get that one out, throw it away, get another one, throw it together, whatever, right? Over the course of time, guess what? You've just had 10 grams of carbs. So you want to be careful with things like that, because that they can add up. Because remember, it's a cumulative. It is a cumulative process. All right. All right. And then total sugars versus added sugars. Total sugars versus added sugars. So total sugars include all sugars, both natural and added. That is whatever comes in the product itself. So if you go out and you, for example, we have orange juice on the screen, right? So we'll go out and you get some oranges and you squeeze those oranges. And you take that juice and you put it in a bottle. You don't do anything else to it. And you bring that to the table. There is sugar in the orange juice. That is natural sugar. So they haven't added anything to it. It's what comes in it. But we can also take that sugar or take that orange juice, and let's say you drink it. It's like, oh man, this is a little tart. I don't like this. All right, then you take that, you put it in the pitcher, you add some sugar to it, stir it up, you bring it back to the table. So now we have both natural sugar, that is what comes in it, and we have added sugar that we've put together. And so when we talk about the total carbohydrates, we're talking about all of the carbs that come in that product, whether it's natural or added to it. And then added sugars, sugars that are added during the processing or preparation. Just like I said, if there are there are orange juice products that you buy that are they don't just come straight from the tree, right? They get them and they mix them all together. They add a little bit of sugar so that it tastes good, and they package it, and then so they come. Okay. And so those added sugars are the ones that we first want to talk about in terms of reducing. Okay, so we're going to talk about how do we reduce added sugar. If you remember when we did it was in April, I think. April, our challenge for creating a meal, right? So one of the things was no added sugar. So it didn't say no carbs, but it says no added sugar. And in fact, our challenge for this month, right? So our challenge for this month is to pick a week where you are not eating anything that has added sugar. Right? So natural sugar is fine in that product, but added sugar is what we're saying that we want to avoid. Okay? So that's the total sugar versus added sugar. So total sugar is both natural and added. That is stuff that comes in the thing itself, and then of course added sugar that comes during the processing process. Okay. So orange juice, apple juice, all of those are good examples of that. If you go out and you make bread, so you go out and you take the flour, you take the wheat, you grind the wheat up, and you take it to your house, and you make bread with it, and you don't add any sugar, there are natural sugars, carbohydrates, right? Because it's wheat, that come in that product. So you've not added anything to it. Daily percentage. What do they all mean? So the percentages show how much of a nutrient is in one serving of that particular product. Right? So if I ate one can, one box, one container, one bag of whatever that is, if I ate one serving, let me not say bag. If I ate one serving, the amount of that particular thing that's in that serving is what the daily value percentage shows. And this can help you see how quickly a food can add up in a particular area. So if I want to see how much protein I'm eating, I want to see how many carbs I'm eating, I want to see how much sugar I'm eating. So you can look at it and say, hey, this thing says that one serving is 10% of my daily, so theoretically I could eat 10 of these. Or my goodness, this thing says it's 25%. All right, so you want to be careful, and that will help. So you want to aim to keep your added sugar intake below 10% of your total daily calories. Below 10%. So if you're doing 1,800 calories, right? So that's 180. Now I tell my clients that I want them south of 145 because 135. So if you do 45 grams of carbs per meal, that's 135. And usually I want them less than that. Okay? But 135 is a place to be. Most Americans will eat about 1,800 calories. If they're on a specific meal plan, then they'll bump that down to 1,700, 1,500 sometimes. I don't tell people usually to go below 1,100 or 1,200 calories, right? We can have a whole discussion about that. As you know, we've used fasting as a tool, and during the process of fasting, overall you're actually decreasing your calories more than that. But on a calorie restricted diet, that is a diet where you're eating every day, I usually don't tell people to go below 1,100 calories. All right, so that's the daily percentage. And so hidden sugars. Hidden sugars are a huge issue, right? So sugar has many names on food labels. There are over 60, actually there are over 80 different ones. So common names, high fructose corn syrup, dextrose, maltose, agave syrup, and more. So knowing these names can help you spot added sugar even when they're not obvious. And you'll see some of the names, some things that you've known, right? Sucrose, high fructose corn syrup, and everybody talks about that because that's a big one that we find in lots of different things. It shows up in, places that you would not even believe, right? So high fructose corn syrup. There's dextrose, of course, glucose, and fructose. Remember, table sugar is actually a combination of glucose and fructose. We talked about that in our show a couple weeks ago, where we talked about monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. So table sugar is a combination of glucose and fructose that gets broken down in the body into those components. And then glucose goes on to create energy in the body. That's the whole ATP. Now, fructose is an interesting one, and I've got that on the list for one of the shows that we're going to do, because the only organ in the body that can process, for the most part, fructose is the liver. And so it is a major contributor to fatty liver disease. That's fructose. And so if fructose is, then guess what? Guess where most of us get it? We get it from table sugar. whether it's, us adding sugar to our food or to, stuff on the table, or when we cook, we add it, or we go to the grocery store and we add it, or it's in, products that are using it. All right, so we're getting a big burst of fructose. Of course, there's maltose. Let's go back over here. There's lactulose. There's maple syrup. Now here's a place, and I don't know that I have that anywhere, but a good place to talk about this. Sometimes you'll see something that says natural. And the implication sometimes is that because it says natural, that it's low sugar. And it can be deceiving, right? Because maple syrup is natural. Honey is natural. But I sure can sweeten something with honey that will curl your toes. Right? So just because it says natural doesn't mean that it is completely healthy in the way we are discussing. Okay? And of course, cane sugar. A lot of our sugar nowadays doesn't come from cane. If you remember, that's where it originally came from when it was brought into our consciousness and used in Europe and so forth. But much of our sugar now is created from beets. So not cane. There's corn syrup, right? And that goes back to high fructose corn syrup. Agave nectar, right? Once again, that natural, right? That natural thought. Sorbitol, brown sugar, coconut sugar, raw sugar, right? And you'll see some of these sometimes listed in the natural products. Evaporated cane sugar juice, invert sugar, honey, maple syrup, barley malt, rice syrup, caramel, right? So all of these are names that you will see. Fruit juice concentrate. So that's an interesting one, right? So they take the fruit juice, they concentrate it. Basically, have you ever been to the store? You go into the freezer section and they got either the frozen orange juice, well, that's a concentrate, or apple juice, or whatever kind of juice it is, or, right, so they will distill it down, and so now it's almost syrupy, and you can use that to sweeten stuff. Like one of the stores that, well, I haven't been there for a while, but if you go into some certain stores, they'll have the little drink containers that you can get. And you can go and you can, get a glass of whatever it is, and then next to it they have the sweeteners, and you can use the sweeteners to sweeten your drink. Or if you go to certain coffee places, right? Certain coffee, I won't call names. Then you can have them put 2 pumps of whatever into your drink. And then of course things like mannitol. Right, so those are all names. Now, this is not the list that I'm showing you is actually a small part of that list, because like I said, there are probably 80 different names that you can see on the food labels. Okay, and then understanding the ingredients. So not only do we want to be able to see the label, not only do we want to understand what's there, but we also want to understand ingredients. So the ingredients are listed by weight, with the most prominent first. That is, when they weigh it, the thing that was added to it, or the thing that's in it the most, is listed first. So if you ever pick something up and it says sugar number 1, guess what? There's a lot of sugar in there compared to the other things that are on the label. Okay? So the higher up it is, the more of that is in the product that you're looking at. So when you're looking at labels, not only do you want to look at the nutritional content, you also want to look to see where, and here we're talking about sugar, where the sugar falls. For example, this granola bar that you have, all right, and let's kind of walk through this one together. And let's start from the top, right? So nutritional facts. So in this box, so one serving is two bars, and that's a typical package, right? So you get a granola pack and it has 2 bars in it. That's usually what you see. That's 42 grams by weight. In the box, there are 6 servings. So if you open that box, there should be 6 little packets, and each packet has 2 bars, right? So 6 of them, 6 servings, 2 packets, or 2 bars in the packet. 100 calories. So 100 calories per serving. That means that each bar then has 50 calories to it. Each bar has 50 calories. Total fat in one serving is 3.5 grams. There's no saturated fat. There's no trans fat. There's no cholesterol. Right? So where does cholesterol come from? Cholesterol typically comes from animals, right? Sodium. There are 70 milligrams of sodium in that serving, in those 2 bars. And that's 3%. That's 3% of the daily allowable or daily recommended percentage. Okay? And then how many carbohydrates? So 15 grams of carbohydrates are in that serving. So each bar, because there are 2 bars in the packet, so each bar is 15 grams. Each bar is 7.5 grams of carbohydrate. One serving, 2 bars, is 1 gram of fiber. And there are 6 grams of sugar in that particular serving. Notice of the 6 grams, 6 grams are added sugar. So when they created this bar, the bar naturally had some carbohydrates in it. Remember, that's the natural sugar. But then they added to it, and that now produced a higher sugar or higher total carbohydrate content. So this is always an interesting one to look at, right? So if I look at the product, 15 grams of carbs, we're going to skip the fiber for a minute and just go straight to the sugar. So 15 grams of carbs, 6 of those carbs are sugar, right? So 15 minus 6, right, is what? 9. So 9 grams of carbs are in that product. And it's a higher carbohydrate content because we added to it. We added 6 grams of sugar. Or there's sugar in it, and 6 of those are things that we added. So if you ever want to, and this is just a generalized idea. I don't have a formula for it on the screen right now, but if you ever want to figure out how high your blood sugar will go based on something you eat, if you take the total carbohydrates minus the fiber and then multiply that by 3 or 4, right? Multiply it by 3 or 4. So for example, let's see. If I did this, let's grab a calculator. There we go. And get rid of that. Okay. So in the and you can't see the other screen, but in the one we were looking at, there were 15 grams of carbs. If I subtract 1 gram of fiber, that leaves 14 grams of carbohydrates, right? So 14 grams. And if I multiply this by either 3 or 4, and the range is actually 3 to 4. So if I did 14 times 3, I get 42. Or if I do 14 times 4, I get 56. So this eating 1 serving will raise my blood sugar between, what did I say? 14 times 3, 42, and 14 times 4. 14 times 4. Between 42 and 56 milligrams per deciliter. So if I started out at 100 in my blood sugar, and I ate this, then my blood sugar would go to 142, from 142 to 156. Does that make sense? Okay? And that's just a general rule. Okay? Now, understand that in a specific person, your body may respond differently, but that's just a general rule that you can use. Because some people say, well, how high will my blood sugar go with a particular thing? There it is. Okay? All right. Okay, so back to our example. So we were kind of walking through. All right, so that's the carbohydrates. And then, of course, down at the bottom, you see the protein. And then below that, below the protein, you'll see other things. So, for instance, if this had vitamin D, then you'd see that there. But right now, all it has in addition is iron. I shouldn't say that's all it has, but that's what, based on the requirement for the labeling, that's all that was added. Okay. And here, if you look at the bottom, that little note, it says that the percentage daily value tells you how much nutrient in a serving of food contributes to a daily diet. 2,000 calories a day is used for general nutritional advice. So 2,000 calories. So 2,000 calories. So, right? Remember we talked about 1,800 calories, right? So this is saying that they're using 2,000 calories. And then, of course, if we look at the ingredients, so what are the ingredients here? It says whole grain oats, right? So it's granola. Number 2 is sugar. Number 2, sugar. So oats and sugar. And then, of course, we've got canola and or sunflower oil. We got rice flour. And look at this, right? So we've got honey, right? So 2 sugars, or two sources of sweets there, sugar. And then there's salt. And then there's brown sugar syrup. And then there's baking soda. And there's soy lecithin. And there are natural flavors. So notice that, right? So if you stopped reading at sugar, you missed the fact that in addition to sugar, right? So table sugar, that is glucose and fructose that's combined, there's also honey in it. And if you stopped at honey, you missed the fact that not only there's sugar and honey, but there's also brown sugar syrup. Right? All right. So that is understanding the ingredient list. So when you're looking, you want to make sure that you're walking through and you are looking at those ingredients, because you can end up eating more than you thought you were eating if you're not careful in terms of the content of that product. Okay? And then what are some common culprits? Now this one, sometimes I get annoyed with this one. Yeah. And that's just because I don't read sometimes. So even healthy foods can be loaded with sugar. Right? So you go out and you say, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a burger, but I'm not going to eat the bread. I'm going to create one of these healthy burgers. So I take some lettuce, and I get some tomatoes, and I get some onions, and I get some, what else you want to put? Some pickles. And I take my hamburger patty, and I put it on that, so the lettuce is going to be my wrap, my bread. And so this is delicious. And now, let me put some ketchup on it. And let me put some mustard on it. And let me put some mayo on it. And just for kicks, I want to make it a barbecue sandwich or barbecue burger. Well, no, let's not do this. Let's just leave the ketchup and the mayo and the mustard. And guess what? Those things I just added, the condiments, will have sugar. All right? So some added sugar there. So things like ketchup and salad dressing and barbecue sauce can add to the food. So snacks like granola bars, we just talked about that. Flavored yogurt, dried fruits, that's a culprit because a lot of people think they're fruits, so they're natural, and so yeah. But once you dry them, you concentrate the sugar in them. Yeah. So when you eat raisins or dates or those dried peaches, they're a lot sweeter than if you ate that peach by itself or ate those grapes by themselves or ate, right? Because you're concentrating the sugar. So beverages, right? SSBs, yes, yeah, sugar sweetened beverages, right? So juices, because when you drink an 8-ounce glass of 8-ounce glass of orange juice, and let me see, I think it was 4 to 5 oranges. Let me see, how many oranges does it take to make an 8-ounce? Because we don't, most of us don't drink 4 ounces, right? How many oranges does it take to make an 8-ounce glass of orange juice? So an orange only contains about 2 ounces of juice, meaning a small 8-ounce glass of orange juice, right, has equivalent of 4 oranges. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mm-hmm. So when you drink the juice, right, you're actually eating 4 oranges. Most people won't sit down and eat 4 oranges, but they'll drink a glass of orange juice, and then they go back and get another glass of orange juice as they eat their healthy granola. Right? All right. So let me see. Let's see. Let's go back. Let's go back. I want to look at that orange juice that we had. Let's see how many grams of carbs were in a serving of the orange juice. Let's see, where is that? Let's go back here. Okay, here we go. Oops, here we go. So orange juice, right? So 110 calories, 8 fluid ounces, right? 240 milliliters is one serving. There are 11 servings in this bottle, and it says that each one is 25 grams of carbs, and it's 22 grams of sugar. There's no added sugar to it, right? So they didn't add anything during the process. This is just straight from the tree. They may have pasteurized it and so forth. And now, so it's in the bottle. And so each 8-ounce glass, that's 4 oranges, we just said, right? So each orange has 2 ounces, so 4 oranges. So each 8-ounce glass has 4 oranges in it, and it's 25. Am I seeing that right? 25. I think that's 25. 25 grams of carbs. 25 grams of carbs. And remember that 1 teaspoon is 4 grams of carbs. So, right, so 25 grams of carbs divided by 4, that means that it's 6.25 teaspoons of sugar. Like going to your table and getting a teaspoon and just putting 6.25 of those in your mouth. That's the equivalent. Okay, so even healthy things can cause high blood sugars, right? So beverages, flavored water, that's another one, because a lot of those are now touted as healthy, and they have carbohydrates in them. People think that because they're flavored water, it's all healthy and we can have as many as we want. Okay, sports drinks. This is one I think I shared with you when we went camping. That that I was think I was getting dehydrated, so we went out and we bought the Zero Gatorade. Yeah, and started drinking it and just watched my blood sugar start climbing. Yeah. All right. And then healthy foods, right? So whole grain cereal, energy bars, fruit snacks, all of that can have um, hidden sugars in them. Okay, so you want to be careful. You want to be careful with those as well. And then, right? So here are some tips. Here are some tips for making healthier choices. And you'll see that as we go through this, a lot of it has to do with our challenge from April. Choose whole foods with minimal processing, like fresh fruits and vegetables. Yeah, boom, there it is. Opt for plain versions of food, like yogurt or oatmeal, and sweeten them yourself with fruits or a small amount of honey. Okay? Look for products labeled no added sugar or unsweetened. Be cautious with low fat. Let's hop over to that one. Be cautious with things like low fat and so forth. And here's some definitions. So sugar-free. Sugar-free means less than 0.5 grams of sugar, whether it's natural or added. Doesn't mean there's no sugar. It says sugar-free. Does not mean no sugar. So if you drink enough or eat enough, your blood sugars will go up. You get that spike in blood sugar. Now you get a spike in insulin. Insulin stimulates appetite. Insulin stimulates weight loss. Insulin causes high blood pressure. Insulin causes high cholesterol, and on and on and on, right? All because you add some sugar-free stuff. Reduced sugar, right, is at least 25% less. At least. It could be more, but at least. So if you were making a product and you wanted to put reduced sugar on it, do you think you would do 50% less? No, I wouldn't, right? Because I want to be able to list reduced sugar on the product with as minimal change to it as I can. So at least 25% less sugar than the regular version of the product. Oh, by the way, going back to sugar-free, you can also see that listed as free of sugar, sugarless, no sugar, zero sugar. And if you look at the reduced sugar, you can see that listed as less sugar, low in sugar, or low sugar. And then no sugar added, no sugar or ingredients containing sugar are added during the processing. No sugar added. We didn't add any sugar, but it came from the ground with sugar in it. Right? So it doesn't mean no sugar. It just means that when we processed it, when we put it in the bottle, when we did whatever we did to it, we didn't add any sugar. But that doesn't mean when it came out of the ground, it didn't have sugar in it already. And then unsweetened, right, doesn't have any added sugar. So low-calorie sweeteners or sugar alcohols. But it can include naturally occurring sugars. Right? No sugar added, unsweetened. So those are ones that you want to be careful with. Because sometimes when we see those, when we hear them, we think that there's no sugar in it. And that is not the case. Right? Awesome. So notice we haven't even touched artificial sweeteners. But there's a whole world out there. So as we're reducing sugars, we want to know where the sugars are. We want to be able to look at labels and make decisions about what to do based on our knowledge of the labels, right? And when you're looking at labels, you want to make sure that you are paying attention to all those things, all those areas that we talked about. So the nutritional facts, so the serving size, the calories, the daily recommended percentages, and then the added sugars down at the bottom, because those are the places where we can run into trouble if we are not careful. If we're not careful there. Awesome. All right. So let's see. Here we go. So Steve said, of course, he said he was very comfortable. Pamela, hey Pamela, how are you doing? She says hello, and Pamela says no, and I think maybe you're answering the question whether you're comfortable with reading labels, and I hope that this kind of added some information for you in terms of where, or gave you some comfort. Okay. All right. So Steve, by the way, thank you for doing that, because I almost have forgotten that we had not looked at blood sugars. So let's see. Let's hop over. So here is my Libre. Actually, let me pull up my Dexcom. Hold on. There it is. Get rid of some of these other apps that I have opened up, because you guys don't want to see all my stuff in the background there, right? Okay, here we go. So let's look at my Libre. So here's my Libre. So my Libre is saying 110, and you'll see there a graph down at the bottom. So right around 3 o'clock, right after lunch, my blood sugar spiked up, and then came back down. And I ate a salad, y'all. Now, granted, it was a huge salad, and it had 2, 3 and a half maybe spoons of salad dressing, some croutons in there, tomatoes, which I know raise my blood sugar. Okay, so here's my Dexcom. Once again, the same thing. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at my finger stick. So I've got my Keto Mojo and my Contour. And so let's get a strip for the Contour. We'll get that one out of the way. Get that one in. And we'll start with the glucose on the Keto Mojo. All right, so let's get that one opened up. And get our strip in. Okay, and then from our trusty little container, let's go ahead and grab a couple of Lancets just in case we need a second one. Hopefully we won't, because if we do, that means I got to poke myself a second time. All right, and so these are spring-loaded, and basically you break the top part off right here. Boom, boom, boom. And let me change my scene. So I'm going to do it here so you can hear it and see it. So let's pop that. Hopefully that gave me a good... All right, there it is. Yep. Gave me a good drop of blood. Let's get that started. Keto Mojo. Get one for the Contour. So 119 for Keto Mojo, and then the Contour says that we are 114, and of course the Libre says 110, and the odd man out, of course, is the Dexcom. So it's a little higher, but that's okay. As you know, I mean they differ sometimes. Why is it not? There we go. All right, so let's do that, and then let's get this strip out and get a ketone in there. So I'm not fasting. I haven't fasted since Friday, I guess, when we broke our fast. So what do you think it's gonna be? What do you think it's gonna be? I'm gonna let you guys see it as it comes up. And while you do that, I'm going to go over and grab my Keto Mojo app. All right, so no, you guys know usually I don't let you see it. So 0.2. All right, so for ketones, less than 0.5 considered normal, 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. And so here is, if you look at the graph, the tan line, those are blood sugars, and then the turquoise line, that is my ketones. So as I've eaten, as I fasted, sorry, the ketones went down, the blood sugar went down, the tan line, and the ketones went up. And then, of course, now that I'm not fasting, let's go ahead and pull that over so we can see what that graph looks like. Got an error. Let's try that again. Scanning in progress. And I think it's actually pulling over everything again, which is okay. Right? So while that's coming up, I do want to remind you that we are getting ready to change the month, and we'll go into the month of September, and we will have a new challenge coming up. So your challenge for this month was or is to use a week and add no added sugar to the food that you're eating. Okay, so that's the challenge for this month, and we'll come up with a challenge for next month as we move into that space. Our community meetup for next month is going to be the fourth Thursday of the month. And okay, here we are. Yeah, see, it pulled up 213 glucose and 211 ketones. So let's see what it is. Let's take a look at this. Let's see, did it pull it up? Let's see. No, I don't see the one for today. Okay, I'll have to sync that again. Okay, but you guys saw on the Keto Mojo that it was 0.2. Okay, on Keto Mojo, we don't have the graph, but it was 0.2 there. All right. Steve says, let's see, what does he say down there? Of course, he says ketones were 2.1. Thank you for putting that. Is there danger associated with staying in ketosis all the time? Great question, Steve. And the answer is no. Now, sorry, let me back up. Let me answer that a little differently. So remember, we're talking to type 2 diabetics with adults with type 2 diabetes, right? So this is not an answer for people who are type 1s, right? There's a whole host of other things that they'll need to consider. But in terms of type 2 diabetics, staying in ketosis simply means that your body's burning fat. And as long as you are eating a balanced, a nutrient-dense, not calorie-dense meal or diet, then you should be fine. And remember, nutrient-dense means that you're putting all the things that need to be in there. So you're getting some proteins, you're getting some fats, you're getting your vitamins, you're getting your iron, you're getting all those things. If you're being conscientious about that, remaining in ketosis is not an issue. Okay, yeah, I love that. Great question, by the way. All right. So coming up for the new month. Now next week, so we're changing month. So this weekend, I'm going to be hanging out at the beach somewhere. Okay. So we'll start our fasting on tomorrow evening. We'll do a show on Wednesday. We'll do a show on Thursday. On Friday, we won't do a live show, right? Unless I'm out there and I grab my laptop and I hop on to let you know. Maybe I'll do a show on the beach. You can hear the waves and so forth. And then on Monday of next week, we won't have a live show, right? Once again, we're heading back, and so I didn't want to plan to be back in space, in the space while we're trying to get, because sometimes flights and so forth. But we will definitely see you back on the following week. I do want you to tune in though, right? Because we will have something that will play, but it won't be a live show for Friday, this coming Friday, and this coming Monday coming up right after, or on Labor Day actually. So I want you to enjoy your time. Make sure you come back to check us out for the check-ins that we'll be doing for the rest of this week. And tomorrow I'm going to a baseball game, so we're going to hang out there. And so my fasting may start a little later. But come back for the check-ins. Join us on Friday, because there will be something that will be here in the space. And on Sunday, This Week in Review, because this show will be recasted, the check-ins that we do later this week will be there. And then on Monday, we'll have something for you as well. So make sure you come back and join us and hang out. And I look forward to hearing and seeing what you do over the holidays. I'm always excited. As I said, we here in this space are working to reverse diabetes, and we do that because we understand that we have unlimited potential. We have the ability to make changes. Within us is the power to chart our health destiny. We do that by the Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the shows that we do, the blogs that we do, the podcasts that we do. We empower with the tools that we are learning. And we encourage with the community that we are creating. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. That's the Triple E formula for success. And then remember, as we're moving through the space, as we're moving to success, there are some things that we will encounter that can derail us, and these are given by the HEAT model. Habits, emotions, access, and taste. The reasons why we eat. These are food triggers. We don't eat because we're hungry. We eat simply because it's time. We eat because we've seen some social cues. Everybody else is going to lunch. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We normally take a break. We're sitting down to watch a movie and we normally eat popcorn. We eat because of habits, those routines that we've created, those routines that we've gotten into. We eat because of emotions. Whether we're happy or sad or tired or bored or frustrated or mad all of those will cause us to eat because the food is a buffering activity. What I mean by buffering, we're eating it to buffer us from whatever that is, that feeling that we have. And then we eat because of access, simply because things are around us. We weren't hungry when we passed through the kitchen or by the kitchen, but we saw that bowl of fruit. We weren't hungry when we passed by the coworker desk, but we saw that bowl of candy. We weren't hungry when we went to the grocery store to pick up some stuff, but we saw that end cap with the food. And we eat because of access. And then we eat because of taste. The perfect combination of sugar, of salt, of fat, the bliss point. So when we eat something, we say we can't just eat one. We're going to eat more. And remember, we're never chasing the food, but we're chasing what the food does for us. The memory that it brings back, the calm that it brings over us. That memory of that time when we went to that place where we ate that thing and we felt that way. We're chasing not the food, but we're chasing what the food does for us. So the HEAT model, those are the triggers. And we are working right now for reversing our diabetes, and the pillars are decreasing insulin, suppressing the appetite, and reducing sugar. And right now we are working on the reducing sugar part. Go back and watch the shows that we did on the previous. And when you show up in this space, call to action. Number 1, join the challenges. Don't let them just be things that you hear, that you listen to, and you put them on the shelf. Get in there, get your hands dirty, jump in with both feet, right? Because those are the tools that we are using to begin solidifying the things that we are learning. When you show up, tell your story. Tell your story of how you are succeeding. Maybe some places you're having some struggles, maybe some humps and bumps along the way. That is a part of the process. It's not going to be all roses. There are going to be some times you're going to have some 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But that's what the community is for. And then share this with somebody else. Let them know that they can have success with their health, with their diabetes. They can reverse their diabetes. Remember, there are over 1 billion people on the planet that have diabetes or pre-diabetes. You can be a voice of change in your community, in your family, at your doctor's office, at your church, at your community center, among you and your sister and them, and brothers and mama and everybody. You can be the voice that says, hey, we're not going out like that. We can make a change. Send the link. Say, hey, let's go watch this together. I love it. Love it. Love it. And as I always say, I'm happy when I am here with you. Always excited to be in this space, right? You have to hear and to listen and to grow. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. We'll see you later this week for our check-ins, and then on Sunday morning for This Week in Review. Good night, everybody.